This episode is brought to you by Andy Bovender, the founder of the Bovender team out of the Carolinas. Him and his team have helped more than 5,000 families. So if you have a buyer or seller who's been thinking about making a move to that area, they are the team to call. Today, I sit down with Johnny Pach out of LA. And the whole conversation actually takes a really interesting turn. We kind of talk about the meat and potatoes of starting and running a successful business, but then we parlay into mindset, which is by far the most important component for success. If you want to hang out with other highly successful agents, scroll down and check out the link for the Inner Circle group to get more information on that. And as always, I'm your host and San Francisco referral partner, Shawn Kunkler. Johnny, what's up, man? Thanks for doing this.
How are we doing? Good morning. How are we doing,
Well,
Sean?
I'm good. It looks like you're doing amazing. You have a beautiful backdrop of LA behind you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you could kind of see the Hollywood sign, like it's kind of there. And then obviously we've got Beverly Hills to the right of me. I'm about 5 minutes away from the Compass office over there in Beverly Hills. Do you ever come in? You should come in.
I haven't actually been there in a while, but my son goes to college in LA, so the
Oh,
next time
right.
I head
Excellent.
down, I'll pop in and certainly say hi.
Give me a call. We'll grab a matcha. That's the matcha latte is a very in thing in LA, I hear. So we'll do that. We'll keep it
We'll do
healthy.
that with some soy milk and keep it all
Yeah,
healthy. Actually, I don't think
exactly.
soy's healthy anymore. Um,
I agree.
Johnny, you have such an interesting background. I would love to get the listeners just up to speed really quick. So if you could, in a couple sentences, share who you are, what you're doing, and how you kind of got into the real estate space.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I only got here about 3 years ago, just over 3 years with my wife. Um, we we had a quiet, lovely little life in just south of London, and I had my office in the city in London. We had this lovely little cottage, and I think just kind of like during COVID times, I was running
Mm.
quite a successful advertising and marketing agency. I had a team of 10 that I was managing, and we did everything on the marketing, advertising spectrum, everything you can imagine from content marketing, video production, website design, PR, lead generation, you name it. We were um, a one-stop shop for lots of different financial, real estate, wellness clients, that type of thing. The company had been going really, really well, about 7 years. I've been in media and real estate sales for probably close to around 16 years. And
Wow.
during COVID time, when nobody was allowed to leave their home,
Yeah.
myself and the wife just got absolutely addicted with Million Dollar Listing, Los Angeles. And we just kind of looked at each other like, is this it? Are we going to be here in England for the rest of our days? Why don't we just pack up everything, sell the property, let's get out to America and see what we can do. And that's what we did. We got here just over 3 years ago, and I established my company here and got it off to a great start. And then I got my license, and it came to that tipping point of, this, Sean, when it generally takes on average around 6 months to get your first deal.
Yeah.
And when I got that first deal, I was like, right, okay, now it's time to really focus on this. I sold the company, closed it down, and then just went all in on real estate. And yeah, just 100%. And it's been incredible. It's been an incredible journey, amazing ride. I absolutely love every aspect of real estate. And the best thing is, it's just bringing in all of my experience from sales,
Yeah.
marketing, advertising, TV hosting, and yeah, just long may it continue. And really happy in the space right now.
I love it. You can pick up your enthusiasm for it, which it just like it
Yeah,
juices me. But clearly you have the entrepreneurial gene in this sense of adventure, as does your wife, clearly.
for
Um,
sure.
but what I really like about that is kind of what you it's kind of the what's the music is made with the silence between the noise. And like
I,
basically what you didn't say is you went all in. And the agents who go all in, I always when new
yeah,
agents are starting, they're like, I tell them full time will give you part results, part time will give you no results. Have you been completely neglecting your newsletter, social media, or any of your outbound marketing? If so, I have a solution for you. With little to no commitment, a virtual assistant can jump in and help you in those areas you just don't have the time for. For more information about hiring a virtual assistant, go ahead and follow the link in the description below. So,
absolutely.
like,
I'm
it
with
sounds
you.
like you went all in, and 6 months later, you turned the corner, which
Yeah,
is a very normal, like a normal
yeah.
time frame.
It was quite challenging because I was still trying to run my company and deal with
Oh,
clients in the UK.
oof.
I was getting up. I I was in my office here near enough every single morning in my apartment building at like 4 or 5 a.m. dealing with our marketing campaigns, my team, my
Oh shit.
clients. And then I was working up until around lunchtime, where they were beginning to finish their day and go to sleep. And then
Yeah,
I'd have to I was at Douglas Elliman at the time, and then I was getting into the Douglas Elliman office, pounding the phone and trying to build a network here and do the
yeah,
real estate at the same time. And it was so hard to maintain those energy levels.
yeah,
It was challenging. I was really having to double up on the business. And don't
yeah.
get me wrong, like I didn't have a network here as well. So um,
That's
my
brave.
uh, yeah, for sure. Like um my kind of lead process, my prospecting, and even to today, that's probably why I haven't got a voice. I just been absolutely pounding the phones.
Great.
That's I mean, I've done everything else in terms of like going to various networking events and door knocking. I love door knocking. But get me kind of 2, 3, 4 hours on the phone every day, and that is where I'm really building that client base. And
Yeah.
it's been the complete success of all of my transactions. So that's kind of like my driven go-to way. And there'd be some days where I get completely bogged down with admin work and escrows and the little tedious things that we have to do as realtors throughout the day. And then I'm kind of I'm getting itchy because I'm like, oh my God, I haven't been on the phone for the last 2 days. I must get on the phone and drive new business. But yeah, that's literally what I've been doing in my early 2 year career in real estate, and it's been paying off.
Hey, real estate pros, be honest. You know you should be using video, but maybe you feel awkward, don't have the time, or just aren't seeing the results. This is where Kim Rittberg's Video Bootcamp comes in. This live coaching program helps agents create high quality videos quickly and confidently, resulting in leads and clients. Her students have seen results. One landed 3 new clients directly from social media, and others brought in millions of dollars in closed sales. Spots are limited, and to apply now, follow the link in the description below. There's so much gold in the last 4 minutes of what you shared. There's so
Right.
much gold in there that I genuinely hope somebody goes back, rewinds, gets a
Yeah.
notepad and listens to it again. You started in a market with zero network
Yeah.
and hell bent every day. These were your words. Every day you'd make calls for 2 to 3 hours. And if you didn't do it, you got itchy to do it. Like that is so
Literally.
incredibly important and powerful. So many
100%.
agents and just people in general, it's like, oh, I didn't feel like doing it today, so I didn't do it. And so it's and that unfortunately, that mindset and that inactivity compounds. Whereas your activity not having a network and then getting a transaction in 6 months. Like that's the proof in the pudding. And the reality is the other stat is whatever you do today consistently won't show up for 3 months.
For sure. Oh, I completely agree. Even longer, some of these listings that I've been
Yeah.
working on, could take like half a year. I'd
Yeah.
tell you, I'll tell you a funny story. My first deal, everybody remembers their first deal. My first deal, 6 months into it, I met my client at a networking event in Beverly Hills. I can't even remember where it was. And we were having a few drinks, and she said to me, can you help me sell my listing in Palm Springs in Rancho Mirage? I was like,
Hmm.
yeah, of course. I know the market. Been doing this for years. I'm one of the top realtors at Douglas Elliman. Gave her the British charm, the Johnny Pach British charm. Anyway, she's like, yeah, I've had it on the market for 6 months with a local agent. He hasn't done anything with it. I'm like, look, give me the listing. I'll get it sold super quick for you. I've got my team. I've got this, I've got the background. She had no idea I hadn't even done a deal before. Anyway, she trusted me. She gave me the listing.
Wow.
Um, I went in there with my videography team, my photography team, because I had those guys to my disposal with my ad agency. So we went over there. We did an incredible job of the property. It was a 3 million listing, but we made it look ultra luxury in everything that we did.
Yeah.
Got
Yeah.
it live on the market. I had an abundance of calls. I had I took a client there, one showing 2 days after it went live. Um, he loved it. Him and his partner, yeah, they absolutely loved it. And then we got an offer in at full ask, a little bit of countering back and forth. And then I had it in escrow in 4 days. And then we
Holy
did it,
jeez.
yeah, all cash offer. And we did it, we closed it in 30 days. And that was my first ever deal at 3 million. So can you imagine, Sean? I was like, wow, this is real estate. Let's close the company. Let's sell. This is what we need to
Yeah.
do. And it gave me that drive to go in full time. And I didn't have to wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning, maintaining
Yeah.
the ad agency. And then obviously 2 years later, it's been woo. It
Yeah.
hasn't been smooth sailing in any way, shape, or form. It's been an
Yeah.
amazing journey, but yeah, that was my first experience. But I wanted to where I was going with this is that it's not only about the consistency, it's also about the follow up. Follow up is
Yeah.
vitally important. When I had that listing, I door knocked one of the biggest properties in the Mission Ranch community in Rancho Mirage, if you know it.
Hmm.
Incredible community. I'd love to live there someday for sure. Tennis courts, equestrian, all of that great stuff. Um, I door knocked a property that that's kind of was based two doors down the road,
Hmm.
and they
Hmm.
said, "Sorry, Johnny, we'd love to work with you, but we already have an agent."
Yeah.
I stayed in touch with them for what, a year and a half. And finally, just 2 months ago, they've given me the listing. So it's on the market
Amazing.
live now, just under 10 million.
Hats
It's my
off.
biggest listing, yeah, so far. And it's an incredible listing. It really looks like it shouldn't be a Macho Mirage. It's going to take a very specific buyer, a very kind of entrepreneurial, out there type of buyer, because the quality of the finishes and everything are just out of this world. But if I didn't stay in touch with these clients and kept sending them information and kept prodding them to the point of where they just had to give me the listing because I wasn't going to leave them alone,
Yeah.
yeah, I wouldn't have got that opportunity. And now it's on the market, and we're gonna get it sold and job, and that's what it's all about.
Hell yeah. Really quick for there's listeners who are just listening to the podcast. If you could just be careful to not touch the desk. I know we naturally do this, but it's coming through. Um,
Got you. Got you. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
that was
No worries.
it sounded like a helicopter that flew over. So, and you can't
Yeah.
control those.
You can't control those. We could
But
edit
I
that out.
actually I love that you said you stayed in touch with them and you were consistent with it and you didn't say I was following up and you also said you kept providing them information
Yeah.
and I think that's so critically important is people don't want to be followed up. Like following up is the activity you do.
Yeah,
That's not what you say. And so it's so critically important to share information with them that
for sure.
educates them. That's the value is educate them on what's happening in the market, what's selling.
Yes,
And I'm not meaning to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like you take more of that approach to provide a value to be back in front of them and not just say, hey, I'm just following up. Hey, I'm just following up. Hey, I'm just following. And it just sounds like you're looking for your paycheck.
exactly.
Whereas here are the market trends, here are the high seasons, here are the low seasons, here's
That's
what's
right.
trading in your area, and it's you're getting up to speed, but there's relationships are just the way that any relationship is structured. The relationship with your dear friend, there's a frequency to it, and frequency naturally builds trust. That's just the nature of human nature. That's how it
For
works.
sure.
And so the more opportunities you have to be in front of them, the more times you can actually hear what they're saying,
That's right.
what's holding them back, what's their fear, what
Yeah,
challenge or personal things going on in their life. And if you can then provide a solution or an option for them, you then become the advisor. And then it's no longer then a matter of if they call you, it's just now a matter of when. And and
absolutely.
and the other data point is, I mean, in a place like LA or San Francisco, I mean, shit, everybody knows six real estate agents, and not for nothing, you can throw a stone and
Exactly.
hit one. Like they're everywhere. And so yeah, like once you get that initial relationship, it's just build, 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 build.
Yeah, for sure. Always add value. Absolutely. Always follow up. And the most important thing I would say as well is, just to touch on to that is, these guys are getting an amalgamation of calls every single day.
Exactly.
And, you've only got you've only got one great opportunity to grab their attention
Yeah.
and, and to bring them into a relationship with you. And I always say to all of the realtors that I connect with, go and meet the guys for a coffee, go and buy them a coffee,
Yeah.
lunch, whatever it may be. As you said, that energy, that kind of personal energy, sitting down at the table and having a relaxed conversation about real estate.
Yeah.
Our positive energy feeds off, and they will have a great element of trust and guidance with you, and that's important. They're going to remember that conversation. I heard I heard a quote from Mr. Wonderful, I think, and
Mhm.
he said they're not going to remember what you're selling them. They're just going to remember that connection and that experience at the time. They're going to remember you with that experience. And that really kind of stuck with me because I've gone
Yeah.
to meet clients and we're talking about soccer and we're talking about
Yes.
restaurants nearby and we're not even talking about real estate. At the end of the meeting we're like, hey, by the way, when you want to list your property, give me a call. I can sell it for X amount. I'll send you some information. We'll catch up. Just very light-hearted, very chill.
Yeah.
And they love that. They feel good around your energy. And as I said, they have that trust and that mentorship with you, and they're going to give you the
Yeah.
business ultimately, and that's just how it works.
Yeah, there's a Maya Angelou quote that's people don't remember what you said, they remember how you made them feel.
Absolutely, that's it.
It, that's it. And I always call it the James Bond approach.
Right.
Is like James Bond, when you think of him, you don't necessarily describe him, but then you start thinking about, well, what do you know about him? You're like, well, you know his favorite drink, you know his job,
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
his title, you
yeah.
know the watch he wears,
That's right.
like, the car he drives, and it's all these other more interesting data points. And that's, people want to talk about real estate, but they also simultaneously they want to be heard. And so that's
That's it.
where conversations come in. And they're like, oh, you're talking about their hobbies, and then and boom, and it's like that's also your hobby, and now it's this whole other
That's
conversation
right.
where
Building that rapport.
it builds rapport. And then when there's these other bridges, that's when people feel comfortable, and that's
Yeah.
when they start, like, the conversations will go deeper, and
Yeah.
you have more connectivity. This is really subtle, but from doing sales for north of 22 decades,
Really.
when people
Wow.
get excited about whatever it is they're talking about, their speech patterns will actually start to speed up.
Yeah, I know,
And
right?
so,
And get louder.
y-
Yeah.
yeah, people, like, they get it's excited.
You're
They are
more
actually getting
animated. Yeah. Yeah.
excited. Yeah, they get animated. They'll speed up their speech patterns.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my gosh, and then it evolves way quicker. And so when you've hit that thing that they're, and it could be something random. Like, I've sat down with clients and like, wow, that's just a beautiful watch you got on. And they're like, oh
Yeah.
my God. And it's like this platinum Daytona Rolex. And I'm like, oh my God, how long is the wait list for that? It's like 2 years. And I
Yeah.
had to buy these other watches. And then it, like,
Yeah.
well, it sounds like that's not your first watch. Sounds like you have a good collection. Oh my God, I got
That's
like
it.
X, Y, and Z. And
Yeah.
then it's like,
Yeah.
next thing you know, you're just talking about watches and not real estate. And then
Yeah.
when they leave,
Yeah.
they're like, I really like that guy, but they don't know
There you
why.
go. That's right. It's just that rapport, that connectivity within, yeah, that initial conversation. That's what wins the business.
100%. And
Definitely.
that's where social media comes in. Like, no one wants to look at the same just listed post every day. Like,
No,
that's where they want to know about you. What's
for
makes you
sure.
you. Like
For sure.
like what you have an ace in the hole, you have an accent. So right away, like, oh, what brought you here? And it's like this
Yeah.
it
I'm
parlays.
I'm I'm like I need to get myself in front of the camera a little bit more. I
Mm,
haven't done it. I haven't done it enough. And I just think it's because I'm quite a new agent to this industry. You're absolutely right, Sean. Like what you're doing with your podcast here, the education you're providing to other agents, and there will be clients looking at these podcast episodes as well. But like what you're
sure.
doing in terms of like relaying that constant education and the laid back manner that we have it in, it's vitally important to update everybody in the real estate market.
Yeah.
And and I put you've kind of given me a bit of a jump really. I need to do more of it. I need to do more of that education, film
Yeah.
myself on camera. I need to post it through my social media. My social media is quite strong. Um, but I don't know. I've been hesitant to not put my face in front of the camera just yet. I think just
Mm,
probably because I'm new. I want to get my transactions out the way. I want to build up that experience.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just
So
a matter of timing, really.
I'm going to say this out of love, but that's a bullshit story.
Yeah,
Like, that you're
true.
new in real estate.
So
And I
so
say
true.
that because just because you're new in this category doesn't mean you're new at life. And you were a
Yeah, right.
CEO of a company. You were a TV host for almost two
Yeah.
decades.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
have these other amazing qualities and
Yeah, right.
skills. Point blank, there's skills
Yeah.
that you can talk about. Just, you can easily frame it as, when I was working at an ad agency, I learned this one simple strategy about listing a property. Here's how I apply it. Here's how I applied it to my first listing that sold in 4 days. And
Such a good
that's
idea,
an
yeah.
interesting hook. It's like, oh, well, what did you learn from that experience that
Mm,
transitioned over? Um, or just like a 1 minute,
I like
like,
that.
tell me about that listing. What did you do that was so unique that the other previous agent
Yeah,
didn't do?
yeah.
Like, you did something that positioned it in a unique, and not for nothing. There's that one topic, you could probably easily get 21-minute clips out of it,
Yeah, right.
or
Do you know
do a
what
recap. Like you're
yeah.
doing, gosh, I'm blanking on his name. I can see his face in my mind and I can't think of his name. He's an agent out of Austin, and he was on my podcast, and I feel like a jerk for not
Okay.
remembering his name. Um,
So
but he just cold calls, and
yeah,
there's there's actually a few agents who will record themselves cold calling,
it's a good idea. That's a good idea,
and
actually.
the reality is the way that Instagram is set up, it's an echo chamber of people looking at the same thing, and so the echo chamber is typically not buyers and sellers looking at your social media, it's other agents. And so what you're
Yes.
actually doing for those agents is showing them why you're ultimately a good referral partner. But then to go
Interesting.
back to rapport and relationships, it's the more we know about that agent, the better we have of a time, and easier of a time we have playing matchmaker for our client who's
Yeah.
then looking for that person.
Yeah.
And that's there's there's a it's just an easier transition in, because you like this conversation here, if my client, let's say, has ad agency background, I know immediately you guys will have something to talk about. If they're from England, I know immediately you'll have things to talk about.
Yeah, for sure.
Or if they say, hey, I really need somebody who's hungry and really driven, I then know there's a good that's a good match there as well.
I might
But a
start
lot of
you've
agents will use Instagram specifically as the way to look for that best connector.
you've given me sorry, is the sound okay?
I can
You
hear
can
it. It
hear it
sounds like
okay?
a sprinkler.
Yeah. Is that okay? I can
It's a
I
little hissy.
I can move. Do you want me to move just quick?
Yeah, if you could, that'd be great. Just because it's picking up pretty high levels.
On a second. Yeah, so it was really interesting what you were talking about social media there. And yeah, you've actually really given me some good inspiration. So I think what I'm gonna start to do now is I'm all about giving back. That's you know, usually the type of person that I am. I love giving back and helping people. I'm a people's person. It's just it's just close to my heart in a way. Um, and you're absolutely right. I do have such a great wealth of experience. It is probably time that I do give back in that way. And I think you're right. I'm going to get some TikTok posts going, some
Nice.
Instagram stories, and I'm just going to educate and help agents throughout the week, whether that's, prospecting, lead generation, marketing, being in front of the camera, even, cold calling, as you said. I think that's a fantastic idea,
Yeah.
to record me going through my script and speaking to a new prospect over the phone and recording that and posting it out there. I think that will resonate. I think that'll go a long way. So
I
yeah,
100%. I mean, it just becomes, you become the source of like, oh, this is how you do it, and then you already have the consistency. It's not dissimilar from those, and I watch them all the time. Is people will like show their workouts, and you're like, oh, I never thought of doing that
exactly.
variation. That's interesting. Let me try
Yeah,
that variation. And then it just, by virtue of them doing it all the time, they become the expert.
absolutely. Yeah,
Um,
no,
but
for
again,
sure.
it's you have such a fascinating background and in history in the real estate space, that I mean,
Yeah,
you appeared in a brand new market, knew nothing and no one, and gained the knowledge in the real estate space and built a referral network. Is That's just incredible, to be
that's it.
honest.
That's what you got to do. The referral network is vitally important because we're all in this together. We're all one big giant family.
Yeah.
And and we've got so many different clients that are looking for an array of different opportunities all over the US.
all
So,
over.
you you might as well just, hey, give my client Greg a call. He's looking for a multifamily, over in San Francisco. Give him a call, and just whatever, cut me in something on the back end, whatever you want to do, and that's just how we do business.
Yeah.
We're all in this together. So no, I'm a true advocate for that type of thing.
I mean, I think that's the one of the through lines I've discovered through this podcast is in now having the opportunity and been blessed to sit down with well over 100 agents is one, they give. And the
Yes.
second is they have the mindset that there's 2.5 million agents in the US. They're all my partners.
Yeah.
Because at some point I could potentially have the opportunity to refer a client to them. And then I
Yeah.
think the other thing they do is the agents in our own market, they're not competition, they're collaborators. And I'm going
Absolutely.
to work with them at some point.
Yeah.
And when that shift happens, that's I've seen it time and time again. That's when people's businesses really start to flourish. Because the
Yeah.
reality is, if you're writing a competitive offer, you don't even know the other agents you're competing against. So you don't even know who they are. And if you're
Yeah.
competing at a listing, it's maybe one or two other agents alongside you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
if even if you lose it, there should be a phenomenal opportunity for you to learn something,
Yeah.
to glean
Yeah.
something from that experience, to get, to sharpen the axe for the next time.
And also with that as well, I've al- I've met some I've met some real jerk, agents. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
There's a there's a bunch of them out there, but thankfully, I've attracted such good agents
Same.
into my deals. We, we flow into the deal with so much positivity. We both want the same outcome, and just ultimately, just treating people with kindness. Just treat everybody who you work with absolute kindness, and it makes the whole transition so much more smoother and enjoyable.
100%. I mean, it just when two agents can collaborate and look for solutions, and the solutions at the end are to get the seller what they want and to get the buyer
Yeah,
what they want. And that's
yeah,
and it's taking the ego out of it as best we can.
exactly, exactly.
It makes it like, listen, the seller wants to sell, that's their goal. The buyer wants to move into this property, that's their goal. Like, how do we connect the
Yeah,
dots? That's
that's it.
it.
It's just
And
connecting the dots.
how do we do this in the easiest, smoothest way possible, and make these two clients just over the moon?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's
yeah.
it.
No, exactly that. Tell me, tell me actually, Sean, what's probably one of the standout challenges that you've had in your real estate career that you know, you you won't forget anytime soon, and how did you overcome it?
Oh, I think the standout is when you lose, and I'm going to air quote, when you lose a deal. Maybe you
Yeah,
lose a listing, or you lose a
right.
buyer, or you lose. And I think shifting, feeling the loss, um, in the early days when every deal makes or breaks your business, it's really hard to not get attached to winning and losing. But
Yeah,
I
right.
I feel like when I got to the point to realize and remind myself is probably the important part, that I didn't lose it because it was never mine. And the
That's
other
so
thing
true.
is, don't mentally put the money in your bank account,
No way.
right? Don't
Uh-uh.
mentally say, oh, I lost a $4 million deal, so I'm not getting this commission check. And like
Yes.
mentally spending it of, oh, I can
No
buy
way.
advertisers, or I can hire somebody, or I can do this,
Yeah,
because that makes the pain of the loss so much greater.
for sure.
But kind of this goes back to my sales days, is to remind myself that I need to meet 100 people for a 2% conversion rate, meaning
I,
only
it's so
2%,
true.
only two people are going to actually transact with me, and
That's it.
98 at some point are
Yeah.
going to say no.
Yeah.
And of those 98, maybe another 2%, let's say 5%, let's say
Yeah.
five people are going to get really far into the process before they say
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. 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 I'm
And
so with you on that.
but it reminding myself, kind of going back into more of like a left brain analytical of it's a numbers game, and I have to
Yes.
meet 100 people to have
Yeah.
a conversion of two, and then within everybody I meet, to your point earlier in this conversation, is I have to, my job, my task, my duty is to follow up with them 7 to 9 times before they will say yes or no.
Absolutely. And it
But
could take
pulling it,
months.
really pulling it back and just knowing the numbers
Yep.
of,
Yep.
I have to host, if I host an open house on one day, my conversion rate is I can get 2 to 3 people. I can get their contact information from 2 to 3 people. That's a good open house for me. And then once I collect 20 of those, one of those is going to will sit down with me for a meeting. And then of those that sit down with me, once I collect 10 of those, one of those will actually convert. So the stats for open house is where that's generally the sweet spot for me to get the most leads, for me to meet new people. And the general numbers for me, these are my numbers, is if I host an open house on one day, I can generally
Yeah.
get 2 to 3 people's full contact information. So first name, last name, email address, and phone number. So now I have 2 ways to get in touch with them for my follow up. And then the stats are, once I have collected 20 of those names, generally one of those will meet me for the office, in the
Right.
office.
Yes.
And then once I collect 10 in offices, then I will get one conversion out of it. And so when I have those days when I lost, again, that's air quotes, lost a transaction, lost a
Yeah.
buyer, lost a deal, is I just go back to the numbers of actually being grateful that I checked off one of the 98 people who aren't going to buy with me.
Exactly.
So my mindset now is, how do I then go find that 2%?
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
there's two other people. I had an amazing coach years ago, and what she had me do, and I love this, and I'm reminding myself to do it again. But when you lay in bed in the morning and you first open your eyes, say out loud, somebody is thinking about buying or selling a home today, and it is my duty to go find them.
Love
And
that.
so now your whole day is set up to go find that person.
Absolutely.
Whatever your go-to, yours is 2 to 3 hours on the phone. So now your duty is to go find that person on the phone.
Totally agree with you. And, ultimately what you were mentioning there is that this business is completely a numbers game. That's all
100%.
it is. It's a numbers game. And, there's a lot of agents out there and they come to my office and they're really disheartened and down because they've lost a particular opportunity or a listing and so on. And I have to remind the guys that, look, you, what do I remind them again? Right. I remind them, what do I remind them?
What do I
And
remind?
I, I remind them that they have to take themselves out of the equation. Like there's a
Yes.
reason why their client isn't progressing with the opportunity, the listing, they're looking to buy something. And, a lot of clients get disheartened. A lot of agents get disheartened because the clients ghosted them, then they're not pushing ahead. And all of these clients, they've got their own circumstances going on, they have their own lives. We are not vitally important right now. The agents need to be patient and just allow it to organically come in, allow that business to come in. And one of the techniques that I do, similar to yourself there, Shawn, is you should see my office in Beverly Hills. I've got a giant whiteboard,
I love it.
and because I'm a visual guy. I need to see the business. I need to see the business there on the board, and I can feel good about it and feel good about it coming in. And I've categorized it similar to you with your A category. I've got active listings coming in. I've got active buyers. I've got
Yeah.
listings for the future. I've got referral business. It's like my giant money sheet. And I get so excited getting into the office and seeing that every day. Because I know that ultimately it's organically going to come in.
Yeah.
I'm all about visualization and manifestation, and and I read The Secret many years ago. And next to that vision board, I printed out flyers that say just sold. So I've got just sold a $9.5 million listing in Beverly Hills, just sold a 2 million condo in West Hollywood. And I'm looking at these just solds. Like these listings, they're so far from even coming into my reality right now.
Yeah.
But the fact that I'm seeing those listings. I'm feeling good about them. I know they're on the horizon. It's just going to bring it into my life so much, so much quicker. And that's just how I adapt all of my business. Similar to you with your affirmations every morning. Oh yeah, I go one step further. I'm sending that affirmation out there that I'm going to meet my client today, but I'm visualizing having the coffee with them, building the rapport.
Yeah.
Not only do they want to give me the listing, they also want to buy a property in Florida, and I'm going to use that for my referral business. I'm also
So
visualizing
good.
I'm going to be good friends with that client in 6 months' time. And, I'm visualizing what they're wearing, what they're having for lunch, what they smelt like, whatever it may be. I'm taking it to that next level of visualization. And that's literally what you need to do. Everybody needs to do that on a daily basis. That's what it's all
You
about.
know, it's really powerful because it's actually reprogramming your subconscious mind to, on a subconscious level, give you the confidence when you're sitting down
Yeah.
that you'll present totally different, opposed to feeling showing up defeated and, oh, why would they want to work with me? And
Yeah.
I don't know. I've only been doing this for X amount of years and I've never sold that product. And it's like you've already beaten yourself before they, as you open your
Yeah.
mouth, oh, your
Yeah.
subconscious is speaking, and they're going to just hear the defeat in you and not, very unlikely want to work with you at that point.
Oh,
You reminded me,
yeah.
this is so random. Um, so years ago, I sold a property, and it was probably, I was maybe like 2 years in at the time, and I was showing my fiance the property, and I was like, "Hey, like check this out," and she goes, "Oh my God, wait, serious? Hold on," and she runs upstairs and she goes and gets her vision board
Oh wow,
from
no.
years earlier and comes down and she goes, that property is on my vision board, and she shows me, and it's literally that unit, like it's the living room of that property. And I was like,
No.
what? And then
Wow.
I had a really great relationship with those clients, and I told them, and they were just like, that is so cool. They were super stoked
Wow.
on it.
Wow. Just like,
Wild.
yeah, that is an incredible story, and I'm a true believer in all of that. Like myself and the wife, we do vision boards all the time. Granted, we hadn't done one in a while, so you're probably giving me the push to complete artwork. Sorry for the helicopter ride there. It's LA. In those we're doing this podcast, it's just I think it's the TV crews just filming us. But anyway, um, paparazzi flying by. Um,
Paparazzi hanging out over your house.
yeah.
Love it.
Um, just to kind of touch on that, not only is it all about vision boards and visualizing, what I've realized with doing this career, you have to have so much faith
Yes.
and patience. and, faith in God, whatever your listeners believe in. But you have to have that faith. I think with all of us agents and entrepreneurs, we don't ask enough. We don't ask the universe enough for what we
Mm.
actually want. And I'm a true believer in putting it down on your vision board, seeing it every day, visualizing it into your existence, asking God exactly what you do want. I want this thing here on my vision board to come into my reality, sending that frequency out there to the universe, and just be patient and have the faith that it's going to come in, and it's going to come in at the right time when uh, when it's supposed to do in your life. And that's it. That's literally it. That's what we have to do. Obviously,
It's,
we have to work hard. We have to follow up. We have to
yeah.
do the cold calls. We have to meet the clients. But that's literally it. You know.
I agree. I mean, I think, yes, you do need to, uh, with any goal, the clearer your goal is, the easier of a time you are going to get to it. Even if it's a vacation, saying, I want to take a vacation is very different than saying, I want to go to New York before the end of the year for 2 weeks. Like
That's right.
there's a different crispness to it that
Yeah.
then you can start putting the wheels in motion, and
Yeah.
then you can do the activities. You can do the activity of finding a hotel and doing the activity of finding a flight and doing the activity of carving out the time, and then you have the action items, but
Yeah.
starting with the goal in mind and then backfilling it from there, it's so incredibly important. when i
Definitely.
started when I started, I had a really amazing, just an A+ manager, and I loved her to death. And we sat down, and she's like, encouraged me to write a business plan. And then I wrote like way too many pages. It was probably like 4 or 5 pages. And she's like, distill it down to one page. And so I worked on it for, it was a couple weeks, and I distilled it down to one page. And I'm similar to you. I love the adventure, but I love adrenaline. And so I always have to have a wince goal. And a wince goal for me is, the number has to be so big that when I see it, I wince a little bit. Then I
Right.
know
I
I'm
like
on it.
that.
Like, and then it's like that juices me. Whereas some people get turned off by it, it turns me on. And I
Yeah.
remember I sat with her, and it was a pretty significant 6-figure number of my net income that I was going after. And she looked
That
at me and
is
she
it.
was like, are you sure? And I said, 100%. And she's like, okay. She's like, I just don't want you to get discouraged. And I was like, I got this. I can do this. And I sat with her at the end of the year, and I sat with her, and I remember going into her office saying, I missed the goal. And she's like, okay, by how much? And I said, $251. And she was like, holy shit. So I not only had a crazy goal in mind, but I only missed it by 251
Amazing.
bucks. And so I take that loss all day long.
Yes. So
And
good.
it was big, and similar to you.
Yeah.
My first deal was a cash deal. I met a
Right.
buyer. He bought a property for 2.6. I
Amazing.
actually went on to work with that same client, and I wound up doing another 8 million in transactions with
Right.
him.
Wow. Well
And then
done.
my next deal, which was a couple weeks later, was one for 1.8. And
Wow.
it gave me the confidence at that point, and I started just the business started
Yeah.
moving faster and faster. And then for the next 5 years, I had doubled my business each consecutive year.
Wow.
And
That's it.
it just changed my trajectory. But it all started with, to your point, I had a very clear goal. And I
Yeah.
have on my underneath my window on my wall, I have my goals, and I have a $25 million property, and at the top it says, congratulations for selling it.
There you go. Exactly. Exactly. That's it. That's what you
Is
need to do.
25 million way out of reach? 100%. Like, I don't know
You can
the
get it.
owner. I don't know if they ever want to sell. I know nothing about getting it, but it's there, and it pulls me. And so
Try
that's my
try to
motivation.
visualize, yeah, the house, the circumstance, how you're gonna meet your client, all of that great stuff. it will definitely come into your reality. I have no
Yeah.
doubt.
And it's, you know, when you sit with the client and then you do get called in, when I find when you have that level of positivity, your resourcefulness in that conversation, it just comes to fruition. It just
Yeah.
flows. Like
Yeah, definitely.
you pick up nuances and the conversation, you just riff so much better.
Yeah,
Whereas when you're scared and fearful, you lose the resourcefulness. And so
absolutely. I know
it
it's so
really, it
hard
all comes to
sometimes.
mindset.
Yeah.
What's up?
It's so hard sometimes because, when you haven't done a deal in quite a few months and that kind of creeping thoughts in your mind, like I really want to get a listing or I really need to get this escrow going, and then you go and meet the client. I'll tell you, they can feel that energy, that desperate energy.
A
You
hundred
gotta let
percent.
it go. You gotta meditate it out. You gotta let it go. You gotta relax. But here's going back to what we were saying about the prospecting, putting in that hard work, not not worrying about the opportunities that haven't come around just yet. If you've got a big enough pipeline, if you've got enough irons in the fire, and you're constantly looking at it and you're doing your follow up, then you're going to be a great success in this business. There's no doubt about that. How
100%.
I was going to ask you, Sean, what's your like preferred way of kind of like lead generation and prospecting? You said open houses. Is that generally how you get your prospects?
Yeah, it's interesting. It changes and evolves, I think, as you're in the business, and
Right,
then it changes and evolves as our roles change.
got it.
And so I'm more in a sales lead position where I tend to bring. I have a colleague I work with, and I tend to bring her in on more deals. I kind of hit that critical mass in my business around year three,
Okay,
where
fine.
I started to shift from buyers to sellers.
Uh huh. Okay.
And then my business now it's usually hovers around like 60-40 sellers to buyers.
Okay,
And so a lot of my I have found the buyers tend to be the best referrers over sellers
got it.
because the
Interesting.
sellers in the Bay Area tend to, it's a transient city, so they tend to move away. And so I
Okay,
tend to not
that's
get as
it.
many referrals from them.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas buyers tell everybody if they had an amazing experience who comes over their
Right.
house. And so I
Interesting.
tend to get a lot of referrals that way. And then I was spending in my early days a lot of money and a lot of stupid shit.
Yeah,
Um,
as you do.
and a lot of the lead gen stuff just didn't work
No,
or it didn't land with me. Like I didn't find a lot of joy in it. And so then if you're with Compass, I actually created a whole relationship marketing. It's a 4-part educational series. It's on the Compass platform where we
I think you
created a
sent me that.
relationship
Yeah, yeah.
marketing. And so I wound up spending the bulk of my marketing money on marketing to people who already knew me because in my mind, it's low hanging fruit versus trying to fabricate a relationship out of thin air and marketing to
Got
that
it.
group.
Got it.
Um, and so it's a whole 12-month, it's literally a monthly process of us outreaching to people, to your point, using the CRM to know who's in what category, which events to invite which people to, who have kids, who
Absolutely.
doesn't, who's retired, who's not, who has dogs. And it's just really curating a personalized experience for each of those people.
Interesting.
And so that's really where like my personal comes in from.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then about 2 years ago when I launched the podcast is I started to build my real estate referral network. And then now a leg of my business is referrals in and out of San
Excellent.
Francisco to it's actually the bulk of guests, believe it or not,
Right,
is the
right.
guests of the podcast have been the best new referral source for me.
So good. So
And
good.
then with that, I will usually pull Nancy in on the transactions with me. So
Okay.
then her and I work together on those. And then she generally is hosting the open houses and then generating her business from those opportunities.
Perfect.
Um, and so it's my the short summary of that is it evolves and it has evolved and it continues to evolve as I change my identity within the business.
Yeah, great. That's great. I mean, yeah, you can't beat referral business. It, it's slam dunk the best type of lead that you could get for sure.
100%. It's
So
double trust, right?
it really is. Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
trust of the agent sending it to me, and then it's trust in that client has in that person. It translates to me. And
Yeah,
so if there's a
absolutely.
really good bond that I have, let's say with you, you know about me and how I approach business from our relationship, and then it
Yeah, yeah.
immediately parlays it. But it also, if I have let's say a referral to Chicago, I know three outstanding agents there. I know so much about each of those people that if it's a if they're doing more of an investment profile and they just kind of want to do the flip, I know Steve Kehoe is like the slam dunk. If it's an investment type
Got it.
profile, but there's renters and they're going to need management help, Jason Rowland's a slam dunk. And so it's
Perfect.
like and then based on their personalities, I can best play matchmaker because at the end of the day, my goal is always the client's success, period. That's first
Yeah,
and
yeah.
foremost. And then it's the who's going to be the best facilitator for that experience.
Well, so if you want to refer some business my way over here, uh, I always tell my clients I'm a listing and selling machine. That's what I do best.
Yeah.
I'm a marketing expert. I'm going to take your property, I'm going to turn it into a luxury asset. I always price high on my listings. I know a lot of the agents price low, they can get multiple offers and that type of thing. I think there's a part of me that wants to win the business. There's a second part of me that I'm a risk taker by nature.
Yeah.
And there's kind of like a third part is that I have so much belief in myself, the level of work that I'm going to put into the listing, my marketing capabilities. I know I can get the property. So it might take a little bit longer than 4 to 5 weeks, but I'm all about, I want to set records and I just want the best for the client. I want them maximize on their investment return. And that's what it's all about. So if you
Yeah.
ever get any clients that way, say, call Johnny. He's from London. He's a listing and selling machine. He'll get the job done for you. And that's it. And we get there.
I love the vocabulary, the listing and selling machine like that.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
such a good
Because they don't
visual.
they don't all sell. So it's like, I'm also a listing machine and a selling machine.
I have a friend who always says, they say, "Oh, what do you do?" And he says, "I'm the guy you hire when you don't want to work with a real estate agent." And everybody immediately goes, "What the hell does that mean?" And so
Yeah,
he's like,
yeah.
"That's when I pull them in." And
Well,
he's like, "That's," and then he can go into what he does that's special.
and also
Yeah,
another a kind of like another thing I tell my buyers, um, because not a lot of them know about our Compass Private Exclusive, which, as we know, is the biggest off-market platform in the country. It's I've done about I've done about 4 different transactions this year alone on Compass Private Exclusive, which is
amazing.
amazing. But I tell my buyers, like, "Are you looking for off markets?" They're like, "Yeah." Looking for fixers, off markets. I'm like, I am the off market king. And I don't even delve into the platform. I just say, I'm going to send you opportunities you've never seen before in your life. And then I send them to them and they're like, wow. They're like,
That's so good, man.
they're like, wow, they're flabbergasted. That's what you need to do. You know,
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah,
confidence, that energy, it wins us the business for sure.
100%.
Yeah.
Like no one, maybe somebody does, but no one wants to work with like the
Yeah.
Eeyore,
But
the one who's the downer who is
yeah.
You know, there's people that they're so negative they suck the light out of the room.
Yeah, I know.
They develop film just by being near it. Whereas other people, they're so positive, they're so
You,
upbeat, and they're so confident in their
you have
work
to. You have
that
to.
it pulls it
Portarlo
literally
dejar tipo
attracts
aquí.
the buyers and
Pero
sellers to you
todo lo
because
de
you're so
americano.
confident in what
Yeah,
you're saying.
yeah. The confidence, the energy comes through a, a a large amount of gratitude. Like, I'm so grateful to be here in LA, living in this beautiful apartment building. The office is down the road, and I'm
Love it.
working in luxury real estate. Like, that's an absolute dream.
Yeah.
And I say to God, I say to myself every day, like, I am so freaking grateful to be here,
Yeah.
and that resonates into the business, no doubt.
It comes through. I mean, it comes through in this conversation. You can
Yeah,
feel it. Like you can
yeah.
feel your level of passion and
Una lista.
enthusiasm.
Sí,
And
yeah.
it's, I think it's great. And I would love
Okay.
to,
Y más que en el lado.
I'm going to pay more attention to your social media and I can't wait to see more of these pieces come through.
I need to do it. I'm going to be giving back. I'm going to be educating the agents who are possibly going through a little bit of a tough time right now, but you can turn it around, and I'm going to teach them. You've given me some great ideas there, Sean. Thanks so much
It-
for that.
Here's another, this one's super easy also. And we can totally do it at any point. I'm happy to jump on with anybody, like literally anybody listening to this. But you can do a shared screen on Instagram. You can do an Instagram live, and you
Good
basically jump
idea.
on
Good
and say,
idea.
I could
Like
be
a
like, hey,
Q&A.
Johnny, you're in LA. What's the biggest opportunity you're seeing right now in your market? And then you
Interesting.
talk for a minute of saying, like, listen, here's X, Y, and Z is the absolute best opportunity. And then you can either end the video there or volley it back and say, hey, so what's San Francisco looking like? What are you seeing for the best opportunities? And
Such a
that's
good
it.
idea.
There's an easy piece, and then you both have a piece of content that you can repurpose.
Wow. I'm going to do that.
And you
That's a
have a
really good idea.
relationship. Like
Yeah.
you have I mean, you can literally find somebody in New York. LA and New York is a huge connector. Miami and LA,
Yeah.
Palm Springs and LA. Like these are just find an agent who's on social media and be like, hey man, I'd love or hey person, I would love to do just a
Yeah.
quick recording with you.
Really like the sound of that. That's a good
Super
idea.
easy.
Yeah.
There's so
Yeah.
many
Yeah. Yeah.
easy, low hanging fruit things that we can do as agents out there.
Definitely. And we're not doing enough of it.
We're not.
You have to diversify. You have to have different. You have to change the narrative. So yeah, I'm with
Yeah,
you
and
on
the
that.
and
Sure.
the and the best way to change the narrative is just not argue it, don't confront it, just create
Yeah.
your own. Just
Create.
put out your own.
That's why we're here on this planet. Just get creating. Create that
Love it,
magic.
man. This was so good. I genuinely enjoyed this conversation, and I love all the different aspects that we wove back to mindset, which I feel is such an important component of the
Definitely.
success in not just this business, any business, and in life.
Yeah, I'm so with you on that. This has been great. You've given me some golden nuggets, some marketing tools that I need to explore a little bit more, and not getting too bogged down with the day-to-day grind. Be creative, have fun with it,
Have fun.
and
I think
and give back.
Yeah. Great summary. Love that. Johnny,
Yeah.
that is a wrap.